Is this a solution, or is this just something that temporarily takes Greece away from the headlines?
Hopefully it takes Greece away from the headlines, at least temporarily. Nothing here, I think, that really sets the stage for long-term improvement. It's hard to see how eventually we don't have some further debt restructuring in Greece. My old thesis advisor, Bill Poole, was on last week, and they asked him about this as it affected Fed policy, and he said, look, Greece is going to default again. The question is whether they default sooner or they default later. So I don't think there's anything here other than temporary measures. And it's not clear this will be an agreement that goes on for more than about another 3 months, and then they'll reassess.
You know, 5 years. You were just mentioning how George Papandreou, signed this bailout agreement, what, three years ago, and at that time, everyone said, they're just kicking the can down the road. So here's the can, and we're facing it now, and we're just going to kick it down the road again, right?
Yeah, just not for 3 years. I think
Right.
I think they've learned their lesson that you really can't rely on implementation of these programs as we go forward. And I think there's huge implementation risk. We talked already about implementation in Greece, whether in fact Prime Minister Tsipras can get this program through his own party. And then there's going to be the actual implementation. Do tax revenues go up? Is there greater tax adherence as they go forward? So I think, again, there's huge implementation risks, and my guess is that this is a program that only goes for a few months before there's reassessment.
If you have a client that maybe made money by buying Greek bonds at the bottom and buying Greek stocks at the bottom, what would you be telling them now? Take the profit?
Well, if you bought Greek stocks at the bottom, that would have been like a day ago, right?
Right.
I think we get through this week. I think the one thing we've learned this week is that the political leadership in Europe wants to keep the whole group together. Mm-hmm. And that is a political decision, and it looks like they'll go through great lengths to maintain that. I think of the counterfactual. Suppose Greece was not in the EU right now and in the euro. Would Germany and France be arguing that they should be admitted as a member? Not a chance. So this is really, a lot of this is about the politics of it. And I think what we've seen is, again, an effort to really keep the cohesion and keep the program together as a sign of political success as much as anything else. So on that basis, my guess is they probably come to an agreement at the summit late this week.
Are you surprised we're here, Robert?
Oh, no. Oh, no. And I won't be surprised in a year or 2 years when I'm back and we're talking about this again. It's not a situation that is sustainable. Debt to GDP at 180% is not sustainable in an economy that's not growing robustly. So my guess is whether we're back in 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years, this is going to continue until we get major reforms. And, whether or not Greece stays in the euro 5 years from now, I think is still a big question mark.
So if you got some risk capital and you want to deploy it now, what do? Do you go out and buy the euro? Do you go buy Greek stocks? What do you do?
Bonds?
I think probably European stocks will look relatively attractive compared to most other assets. Greek stocks have had a nice bounce. I'm not sure that would really continue from these levels. I'm not sure I want to own the debt for anything other than a very short-term trade. But what comes out in the background of all this is that the European economy is growing better. We just had it's only a 3-year series, but a record high in the composite PMI in the Eurozone. So I think Europe is growing, and the ECB is committed to add liquidity through September of 2016. So that still looks like an attractive place for risk assets.
And we can here in the U.S. still afford to kind of ignore what's going on there? We're still fine that way?
I think that, ironically, the dollar's a bit stronger today, particularly against the euro. And I think that's because a lot of people thought the Fed had Greece as a concern, and if Greece is no longer a concern, therefore the Fed can go ahead and move forward on their policy adjustment. But I think that things are looking a little better in the U.S. economy as well as the European one.